Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the WPS podcast. That is Why People Suck. I'm Celia, and I'm joined by my co host, best friend, and sister, Alejandra.
Hi, everyone. Glad to be back for another episode where we call out all the ways people are super annoying and talk about what we can actually do about it. We say it so you don't have to. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about why AI sucks. And we kind of touched on this last week in last week's episode. So we're kind of piggybacking off of that. Last week, we were talking about why job searching sucks right now. And one of the biggest things that we landed on was that AI has been a huge hindrance for people. So we kind of wanted to take a whole episode and kind of dive deeper into why AI why AI sucks.
Yeah. So just a quick recap of what we talked about last week, because it is relevant to today with AI, is that when you're applying to jobs, you can bet that a real person is not going to be looking at your CV. It's all AI now, and you can just get auto rejected in seconds if your CV doesn't have the right keywords or the right language, whatever it is that they're very specifically looking for. If you don't meet or check all the boxes, then you're out. It doesn't matter if you're an overall fit or if the AI does not understand the storytelling. That's one thing. And then the AI interviews, which we talked about, where you don't even get to meet a real person and build that rapport. It's just an AI asking you questions. So there's just no human interaction whatsoever.
Yeah, and that part is so crazy to me because I was thinking about that after we finished filming. And a lot of the times, the best part of interviewing is actually getting to see the personalities of people that you don't see that on paper. So if you see someone and you talk to them and you're like, wow, this person is actually really great and they would fit really well into the group, which is not something that you would ever get from an AI interview. So whereas before you as the interviewer would have said, huh, actually, I kind of want to pass this person to the next level to talk to more people. They just get immediately rejected. And that just seems so like, again, it's just not great because you're losing out on what could be a really great fit for your team.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just this lack of human interaction that AI is bringing is really one of the biggest things that I hear people complain about. I mean, even just myself, a couple weeks ago, I was trying to make an appointment to go see my doctor, and they now have this AI agent that does all the booking.
Wow.
And it kept asking me the same questions. It didn't understand my last name. And then I would say my birthday, and then it would ask me later, "What month were you born in? What year were you born?" Again, filling out the same, I guess, form or whatever it is. Like, why does it need to ask so many questions as well? Like, all I want is to know what is the next available doctor, when, and can I book it? You don't need to ask me all these historical questions about my health at this point. It's just way too much. So, not only that, with this story where there's no human interaction, it just takes way longer to do things. It makes mistakes, and you're just using AI for absolutely everything, investing all this money in this agent that isn't really getting the job done. So there's so many factors just in this one single story. I ended up just hanging up and walking over there and making the appointment myself.
Well, not everybody can just walk over there, but man, that's so frustrating. Yeah, I had kind of a similar situation happen where I was just calling the student loan people and I just wanted to know if they got the form that I submitted and it took me to this virtual AI person and I literally just needed to know, did you get the form? And it was like, it was submitted on this day. And I was like, okay, but is it accepted? Did you accept the form? Because I'm not seeing that online. And it's, well, you submitted it on this day. And I was like, I know I submitted it on this day because I did it. You don't need to remind me, but did you accept it? And then finally, after about 5 or 6 minutes or something like that, it finally was like, okay, the form has been accepted. And I was like, you could have just said that 5 minutes ago. I was pretty clear with my question. I don't know.
Yeah, it's because it needs to follow a certain
Yeah.
pattern, and I mean, obviously, this technology is still fairly new, so there's so much that needs to be developed for it to actually be useful and helpful in more scenarios. But I think there's this obsession with it that, oh, we all have to have AI. And then you're incorporating it in places that it doesn't make sense. And it's actually making the customer journey way harder. And you're not answering the questions it doesn't understand. It only lets you pick black or white, but you need gray, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then there's not even an easy way to get through to a person. So that's also just specifically customer service, but there's a lot of scenarios where this is the case. It's just so frustrating.
Yeah. This kind of reminds me a little bit of, do you remember learning in school about the space race? Where like different countries to get to space first, and it was just like kind of a scary thing at the time because they were like, "We've never been to space," and then you're just gonna do it because you wanna be the first ones to do it. Is that safe? Is that okay to do?
Yeah.
So it kinda reminds me of that a little bit.
Yeah, that is funny. It's true. We're just so obsessed that we just have to have this
Yeah,
technology,
yeah.
even where it doesn't make sense. And other things that are frustrating about it that I've seen people complain about is just AI content everywhere. There's all these fake, deep fakes, as they call them,
Yeah.
these
That's
images and videos, and you don't know what's real. I mean, there are ways to tell, I guess, but a lot of people can be scammed by
Mhm.
AI. And also, not even that, but I just find it annoying when I'm reading something. I'm like, this is clearly AI. It's missing that person. I don't know, that personality. If you read blogs or something or posts
Yeah.
on Instagram where you want to see something real, now it's just need to keep pushing content out. And I find that annoying.
Yeah, it's just soulless. And then I also think one of the biggest misconceptions about AI is that it's always right. So, like you were saying, and so a lot of the times it can sound really confident in its answers, but what I think a lot of people don't realize is that AI is fed information by humans. So if the information is incorrect or just slightly incorrect, it can analyze things incorrectly and therefore just be wrong. So you still have to use your brain. You can't just be like, "Yep, that's right because AI said so, so it's right." And it's, well, AI learns from human created information. And since humans are biased and not always right,
Hmm.
and obviously we don't know everything, that means that AI can unintentionally also be biased and incorrect. So,
Yeah, absolutely. What you're describing is the AI hallucinations. And I actually
yeah.
got the definition for this because I wanted to bring it up. This
Uh,
says an AI hallucination is when a model, such as a large language model, confidently generates information that is false, fabricated, or entirely unsupported by real world data. Because AI models predict what sounds plausible rather than understanding facts, they often present these errors highly convincingly, which is exactly what you were
yeah,
saying.
exactly.
But it's true.
Yeah.
I've seen this myself when I sometimes use ChatGPT or Copilot or whatever, and I'm asking for stats. Sometimes I'll ask it to give me sources where I can look at more
Mhm.
information, and then it'll just straight up tell me a lie. Like 30% of people died yesterday from a disease in, I don't know, Thailand. And I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't real. It's just because I was asking it to tell me about a terrible disaster that happened yesterday
Oh,
in Asia or
yeah.
something. And it'll make it up for me because I asked for it. And it's like, this isn't even real.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And then you go to the sources too, or it'll give you sources and then you click on it and it's like, this website doesn't exist.
Oh,
Because you're like, I need a source. And then it's like, okay, this sounds like www.stats.com. Okay, well, that didn't actually come from there because that doesn't exist.
right.
Just it wanted to give me what I was asking for. So it's
Yeah.
so true. You do need to Make sure you click on those links. Make sure you double check those stats, that research, that data. You cannot trust AI fully.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, because I think also AI is really excellent at producing the average of what it's seen, but humans create
Hmm.
greatness by breaking patterns, whereas AI is just looking at everything that it's getting, and then it's just doing the average of all of that information, if that makes sense, right? Well, the reason why we're so innovative as humans is because we break the patterns that are already there, whereas AI doesn't. It's a pattern, and that's how it continues to operate.
Yeah, exactly. So, one thing I hear too is that people say, "Oh, we're not really scared that AI is gonna take over because of what you're saying,"
Mhm.
right? Innovation happens from creativity, and they just keep spilling out or spitting out the same information in a different package.
Mhm.
Or I don't know what I mean. I guess if you ask it to generate an image or something,
It's not new.
it'll always be, yeah, based on what exists. It'll never be something totally new.
Yeah.
I guess there's no way to really give a good example of that, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's really frustrating.
It kind of reminds me of, like, when they make Disney movies and the characters look different than previous movies. But if they take all of those cartoons and they throw that into AI, it's gonna spit back a cartoon that is going to be the average or like different pieces from all of them. So it's not gonna be a new cartoon. It's gonna be just a
Mhm.
combination of all of those, if that makes sense.
Yeah, actually, that's a great example. Yeah, it does make sense.
Yeah.
And one thing, just based on me using it sometimes to generate images, I'll say, okay, I like what you did, but can you just change this part?
Mhm.
And then it changes a lot more of it. And I'm like, no, that is not what I asked for. So I know it's also what they call prompt engineering, like getting better at that. But why isn't it smart enough to just do it then?
You know, especially when you give it very specific instructions. You're like, "Just this part right
Yeah.
here." Yeah.
Yeah. But then on that, I'm also thinking how another effect, I guess, of AI is like how people aren't really thinking for themselves. A lot of people just rely on it to do everything for them. And everything. I mean, even things like asking it for advice on therapy or something, or what should I text this person? What should I have for dinner
Yeah,
tonight? You just become so dependent on it.
I know. Yeah, just like all technology, right? Can you imagine not living without your phone? No, probably not.
No. But I think there's even a term for it. It's AI psychosis. Have you heard of it?
No. What is that?
So, yeah, I also decided to look up the actual meaning to
Mhm.
share. So, AI psychosis is a non clinical phenomenon where prolonged or intense interaction with AI chatbots reinforces, amplifies, or co creates delusional thinking, paranoia, or altered realities.
Ooh.
Because I guess a good example is if you're asking it about a certain situation, then it is constantly telling you, yes, you're right. And then
Yeah.
you start believing this reality.
Uh-huh.
Wasn't there a terrible case where it led a kid
Yeah.
to kill himself?
Yes. Yeah,
Right?
yeah. I remember this. Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. It was like,
Yeah.
"No, you're right. Your friends do hate you," or something like that.
Yeah. So it's not just dangerous because we're not really thinking, but like at some point it even seems to influence
Mhm.
what we do.
Yeah.
So that's the scary
That is
part.
the scary part. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but man, that's something for the future. I think we're kind of the last generation that will have known a world without AI. But so for the next generation, like I'm just thinking about my kids, like I think it's gonna be very important to be
Yeah.
like, look, you cannot rely on what it says. It really like AI is great for certain things. Like, it's really helpful to help you draft. I'm not gonna lie, I ask it to help me draft emails when I know it's mean and I need it to help me be nicer. And sometimes I have so many ideas that I'm like, "Can you here's all my ideas. Can you help me organize them in a way that is more just organized and makes more sense versus it just being like me dumping all of my thoughts?" But it should not be something that gives you advice and then you take it as a fact. I know a
Yeah.
lot of companies lately have been using it for, and I think this is actually a really good way of using it, where like the company puts in all of the company's information, like its rules, its laws, its whatever, its ways of its processes and procedures. And then, for example, like a call center, they get calls from people, but the person is still getting to talk to a person, but they're asking all these questions where a human being would probably not have all of that information all of the time at the top of their brain, and they'd have to go and they'd have to research it. But instead, the AI is listening to the phone call and it's kind of spitting out like, oh, here's the answer to that question. Here's that statute that relates to this, and this is why we can't do this. And I think that's super helpful because it also cuts time on calls and it's less frustrating for the caller because they don't have to spend 45 minutes on the phone with you. It can be like a 15-minute call. And I think that's great because it's just
Yeah.
giving you back information that has been vetted by humans. And it's just kind of helping you have information more at your fingertips versus like you having to be like, oh, can I just call you back? Or can you wait on the line for 5 minutes while I research? Stuff like that. I think that's really great.
Mm.
But yeah, like we were saying, just like having it give you advice is probably just not great. Like, you gotta take that with a grain of
Yeah.
salt, maybe bigger than a grain.
Yeah. No, totally. I agree with that. I think what you were describing of how companies are using it in that way, there's so many amazing uses for AI. I know it has definitely helped me in my work for sure,
Mm,
but I can't just stop thinking for myself.
yeah.
I think that's basically what you were saying. And that's the point, right? It's definitely great for so many things, but it's understanding where it has its limitations
Yes.
and what still requires the human to be doing the work.
Yeah, exactly. It can make mistakes, it lacks context a lot of the time, and it doesn't possess that human understanding or accountability, which is so important. Human emotion is so important. That's just something that a machine is never going to have. So, I think people who are afraid like, "Oh, AI is gonna take my job," it might take some jobs, but it's not gonna take every job. That's insane. There's just no way because there are jobs that require you to be more than just a robot to make decisions. And like I said earlier, breaking those patterns is never going to happen with a machine. It still has to be humans. Unless maybe down the line that
Yeah.
eventually the machines get so smart that it has emotions and it can break patterns, but we're definitely not there yet. We're very far away.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all about how humans oversee it and how you use it to make your workflows better, I guess, without it needing to take over. It's not gonna happen, it's true. I think I hear so much buzz about it, or at least over the past couple years. There's this conference in London that I've been to this year and last year, like the tech conference, and everything was like, "AI, AI, it's amazing, it's incredible." And I just think that they're so specifically, I guess, they're not looking at the consequences of it, or they really think that it's this amazing magical thing that can do everything.
Mhm.
And I noticed the difference between last year and this year. This year, they were, like, reeling it back a little, being like, "But the human, we need human oversight. We've seen how many mistakes it makes and how it's really not perfect." But last year in 2025, they were like, AI is going to do everything. And so there's been definitely a change in, I guess, perspective or attitude towards AI, which I think is good. People are being a little bit more
Mhm.
cautious, if that's the right word.
Yeah, that's good. I just got The Economist magazine right here. And it is
Yeah.
all about how to deal with AI and the AI backlash. And it had some interesting things that I kind of wanted to talk about real quick. So this is all about Americans, right? So the Americans already know that AI can be transformative or dangerous. So there is a lot of people do realize that it can be dangerous. So that's actually comforting because if everyone's just like, it's so great, then we're going to end up in a situation where, like you said, we're just going to be like all AI and AI is going to take over everything. And I just don't think that's a good idea. But so a poll by Pew done last year found that Americans were more pessimistic about AI than people in any of the other 24 countries that they polled. It doesn't say what the countries were, but I'm assuming it's probably like,
Hmm.
Canada, England, Mexico. I don't know for sure.
I wonder if the UK is in
Yeah,
there.
I'm
Yeah.
sure. I bet it is. But and then more recent polling by YouGov finds that 61% of Americans think AI will affect society a lot, and only 5% think it will not. It will only affect it a little or not at all. And then Americans think that AI
Mm.
effects will be more negative than positive by 46% to 31%. So, yeah.
Wow.
So I find some comfort in that because I just feel like again, it's not losing that human reaction and that touch that we still need. If humans are afraid of it, then maybe we'll be more cautious of it.
Yeah. And like we've seen and proven that it makes mistakes and it's been costly. Like recently, didn't Facebook invest so much money into their AI models and then it ended up not working as they wanted to and they had these huge layoffs? So you got to be cautious.
Yep.
This investment that they think it is, like, you can't just get rid of humans.
Yeah. Mm,
You can't.
yeah. So let's just keep pushing that idea so, so that we don't become a soulless world.
We need that human interaction. I need to be able to talk to a human when I need help, not just a robot.
Yeah.
Like, now everything is bots.
Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast about PR and celebrities, and they were talking about how bots are used to inflate numbers on Instagram. Like you can buy followers and people to comment on stuff and like stuff. And then with this PR specifically, which I thought was so interesting, the host was talking about that feud between Justin Timberlake and Britney Spears, where like his campaign managers were using all these bots to go in and comment on everything negative about him. So this stuff has like the ability to change the perception
Wow.
that the public has about stuff. Isn't that crazy? Because then you start seeing all these people, quote unquote, they're actually bots saying, oh, I see no issue with this. It doesn't matter what the issue is. The point is that these bots come in and they change the whole narrative.
Yeah.
And I find that pretty scary.
Yeah, that's dangerous. Yeah, I agree. I don't like that. But to be fair, it's not the bot's fault, right? That was a human that pressed the button and was like, "You need to go in and make all these comments about all this stuff."
Mm-hmm.
So, it's a
Yeah.
human.
So there's so much to think about in the misuse of AI.
Mhm. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
And then just another big one that we haven't touched on is now we rely so heavily on AI, but how do we get all these models, right? They live in data centers. We haven't talked about the data
Oh my
centers
gosh, yeah.
and the issues. Yeah.
And nobody wants a data center by their house. I've heard horror stories of people who end up like they lose the fight against having it they're so loud and also they take up so much water which honestly I guess I don't really understand how they are like kept up, I guess, but like why do they need so much water?
Oh, I have a stat for that
Oh,
actually.
okay.
Yeah. It was interesting because I wanted to bring that up for sure. A large data center can consume up to 5 million gallons of water daily, which is primarily for cooling servers. So you were asking that.
Oh.
And this amount of water is comparable to the daily water use of a small town of 10,000 to 50,000 people.
No, that's crazy.
So it gives you an idea.
That's crazy. We don't have water.
Mm-hmm.
Water is just I don't think that people really realize this, but the world
Yeah.
does not have that much water. We really need to be conserving water. That's the scariest thing that we've talked about today. That makes me so mad and so sad and very worried for the future. Like I wasn't already. But wow,
Yeah.
that's horrible.
Totally. That is so scary because, yeah, we don't have enough water. And I'm like, is there no other way that you can think of doing this? Not
Yeah.
only is it water, but it's also power, other resources that affect the communities. It's but the water thing, yeah, that's absolutely terrifying.
Yeah. Also, on a very minor scale, they're also very loud. So apparently, if you live anywhere near
Hmm.
them, it's horrific. It's so loud. I read or I saw a news article real quick that was talking about how this woman had to put plexiglass on all of her windows so that she could kind of make the noise not be so loud, but it was still super loud because it was like, I guess maybe 2 blocks away, so it was pretty close, but still, oh my gosh, are you kidding? That's horrible, and it's not like she has a choice, she can't just be like, "Well, I'm gonna move." Like, it's her house. Why should she have to move?
Yeah, I had no idea that they were that
Yeah,
loud. This is a new bad thing I'm learning about them.
yeah. So, yeah, AI, it's scary. It's there's a lot that needs to be fixed before it moves on, but before we move on with this in the future.
Yeah. I think knowing that fact about how much water it uses, I try not to use it unless I really need it. Because some people will just use it for absolutely anything. Instead of Googling a question, they'll go to ChatGPT and ask it. Sometimes I'll just do the old school thing and Google something so
Old
I don't feel
school.
so bad about my AI use.
Yeah, but you know what though?
Yeah, old school, quote unquote.
Yeah. But you know what? Sometimes when I Google, I get the AI thing pops up and gives me the answer. So is that using the data center?
Yeah. Good point. Yeah, now that Google has
Yeah.
Gemini, it's true.
I wonder if I could turn that off though. I bet you can. I'm gonna go look
Yeah,
it up
actually,
after this.
I'm gonna look into that. I don't know how that works exactly, but I do know that now, since I work on designing websites and apps and things, I know that now one big thing is not just back in the day with websites, it was all about search engine optimization. So now they have something that's for AI optimization. So you need to make sure that your websites appear on AI results.
Mhm.
It's just like this whole obsession. I was just thinking about that because it's that answer that comes up there.
Uh-huh.
So,
Yeah.
one more thing I wanted to say actually on this topic of AI, which apparently we could talk about forever because there's so
Yeah.
much, is how AI is also a bubble,
Mhm.
right? Have you heard
Mm-mm.
this term or like how people are talking like the .com
Whoa. Like
bubble?
it's gonna burst.
Yeah, because all these companies that are AI, like they invest in each other. So it seems like they're doing better than they are. Like an example is like OpenAI buys chips from NVIDIA and then NVIDIA invests in OpenAI. So it seems like it's way more profitable than it is. But then it's like from all these companies and like Microsoft buys models from OpenAI, for example. Copilot is just ChatGPT in a Microsoft outfit, you
Yeah.
know? So it's like if one of these companies decides, "Oh, no, I'm not gonna be, like, buying your stuff or investing in you," like, this could just end.
Mm.
We're living very precariously.
Yeah, aren't we always? That's what it feels like. But yeah, I feel like we could talk about this forever, but we probably need to wrap it up. I think just to kind of
Yeah.
wrap it up and to kind of summarize, I think AI is an exceptionally capable tool for analyzing, for coding, helping you brainstorm, summarizing. It can save you time, but AI isn't replacing what makes us human. It can't replace lived experiences, your inside jokes, your friendships, funny stories like a weird first date or, like family stories. Like that stuff is never going to be replaced. So the messy, unpredictable things that make life interesting, AI can't take that from you. So hopefully there's that silver lining that can carry us through the future. It's never going to live our lives.
And honestly, AI is just not gonna replace humans, so I think we can all rest assured with that. It's not perfect, it makes mistakes. You gotta still check things and use your brain, so At
Yeah,
least we can end in a positive note that way.
exactly. Yep,
And now
exactly.
I guess I want to hear from our listeners. What are your thoughts on AI and do you use it? Anything that you want to share with us? We'd love to hear. What do you think about what we had to say, too?
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the WPS podcast. Remember to follow us at the WPS podcast and send us your stories, comment on our posts, and we'll see you next time. We said it so you didn't have to.
See you next time. Bye.